Hello and welcome back to the channel, and in this video I'm going to go ahead and walk you through how to do a conversion of a VHS tape using a VCR, an upscaler, and a video capture card for your PC or laptop. And I'm even going to try to handle the Macintosh and Windows kind of question that I've gotten quite a few times in the comments. And speaking of the comments down below, I have to thank all of you because I have almost 500,000 views on my channel, and I am just amazed by that and super grateful that you guys have taken the time to watch my videos and the wonderful comments that I've gotten from you guys about encouraging and just how much the video you've appreciated. Truly heartfelt. Can't tell you how much I appreciate that. So with that has encouraged me. It's been about 2 years since I've done those other videos, so they're still relevant to this day. So I encourage you to go watch them. I'll put a link to at least one of them up here and maybe one at the end of the video, and I'll definitely put them down in the description below. But go look at those videos because there are some good information in there. And while you're doing all that, do me a favor and please hit that like and subscribe button down below, because clearly there's a lot of people that have these things like you and I do, and we all want to convert them and not break the bank. So the goal here in this video is to go over how to do this process from beginning to end. There's a 4-step process. I'm going to walk you through that, and I want to do it without breaking the bank or making you spend too much money on too many crazy things. And let's go ahead and get right into that. Okay, so let's talk about what we're gonna do and how we're gonna get there, right? So what we're gonna try to do is we're trying to digitize these old VHS tapes, and the way we're gonna do that is we're gonna play them in a standard VCR. We're gonna take that VCR signal, that analog signal, and send it into some form of upscaler, and then out of the upscaler we're gonna put it into a capture card, and then from the capture card we're gonna put it into some type of PC or laptop or something like that. And what I'm gonna do in this video is I'm gonna walk you through the basics of how to do all this, how to set it all up, and I'm gonna do all of the different versions, and along the way I'm going to show you some different upscalers that I've kind of tested here in 2025, as long as from different capture cards, and I'm going to make my recommendation to you on where you should kind of land in doing this process for yourself and give you some more options, and also answer some of those questions that you guys have put in the comment down below, because you guys have done a wonderful job of leaving me lots of great feedback, and I'm going to do my best to try to address most of those questions in this video here. So let's go ahead and start by talking about the VCR. All right, so let's talk VCRs for just a moment. If you need a VCR, you don't already have one, or you want to upgrade the one that you have, you can still buy VCRs, let's say on Amazon and a few other places around the internet. But I'm going to tell you, you're probably going to spend a decent amount of money if you go to Amazon and you buy them. Now, I will put a link to this model here specifically down in the description down below, just in case you want to reference it. But I will tell you, on Amazon, this thing runs for maybe $200, $300. But I found this on Facebook Marketplace for less than $100 from a local lady. All you got to really do is just find somebody with a little bit of gray on their face, and they probably have some of these still sitting around in their entertainment center, and they probably don't use them anymore, and would be happy to kind of offload them to you for a reasonable price, or maybe free. So when you're looking at these devices, I would suggest you kind of look at some of those marketplaces, maybe eBay, and go and try to pick up a model that way instead of buying it outright from Amazon or one of those other things. If you can't get it any other way, obviously you're gonna have to go and spend a little extra money and get it from them. The only benefit to that too would be is that maybe it's a newer unit and you don't have to worry about it sitting around and being dusty or, you know, not well taken care of. And you do want the best quality type of device when you're going to convert these tapes, because you're probably only going to do this once. And given that this technology was kind of put out in 1976, these things could be almost 50 years old. So the other thing I want you to look at is, you'll see on this model it says 4-head unit. They made a 2-head and 4-head unit. Now the heads refers to how many, let's say, eyeballs or sensors on the inside of the thing can read the actual tape that's in the inside of this tape. And 4 heads was kind of the best version, and they made a whole bunch of different things, but you basically look for any 4-head version. That's going to be kind of what you're looking for. The other one you want to look at is, you'll see on the front here we have these little what's called RCA jacks. There's a yellow, a red, and a white on this one, and over here there's only a black and a yellow one. The difference between these two models is the yellow is always your video signal, and then the other ones are your audio. Over here, because it's black, it's a mono sound, which means there's only a single sound source. There's no left and right like stereo, but over here on this one, this supports a stereo sound for left and right, and that's why there's a red and a white connector. So if you can buy it, or if you can find it or you have it, the stereo obviously is the better way to go, opposed to mono. Now, original VHS standard did not support stereo sound. It was kind of put into that standard later, you know, years on. Don't know exactly the date off the top of my head, but you know, if you can get the stereo device, that's going to be the best way to go, right? So 2 things to look for: 4 heads and a stereo type output. Other than that, that's basically for the VCRs. So let's go ahead and talk about the upscalers, because we're going to take our signal out of this device here and we're going to feed it into an upscaler to change that analog signal to digital. So let's talk about that next. So let's talk about upscalers just for a moment now. What I've done is I've gone out and I've spent my own money on buying just an assortment of upscalers that kind of met some criteria. And those criteria are, they had to support both the 4:3 aspect ratio and the 16:9, and they had to do the 720 and the 1080p, basically the two different higher resolutions. And I bought these because I wanted to test them out and just kind of see what was available in 2025 compared to a few years ago in my other video. Now, I did an upscaler video, and I'll put a link right here and down in the description down below. Go watch that. It is definitely, there's some good information in it, and that's going to kind of walk you through and show you kind of some of the things that we're going to talk about here today. So that's another good video. Go watch that one. So what's going to happen is, what an upscaler does is we use these RCA cables, and we're going to plug this into our VCR on one end, and then we're going to take the other side and we're going to take that and we're going to plug it into this upscaler with our audio left and right, just like this. And then that's going to take that analog signal in, and it's going to convert it into some digital format, and then do some upscaling of the graphics, because a standard NTSC or PAL kind of video format coming in is only going to support, let's say, 240 lines, or I think it's 400 lines for PAL, right? And then that's going to convert it into a digital format and upscale it to a modern, digital structure, and maintaining the aspect ratio. And then it's going to send the data out of the HDMI port, and we're going to take that HDMI port and we're going to plug it into a capture card and then capture it on our PC. And I'm going to go ahead and literally walk you through each one of those steps just a little later in this video. All right, now, out of all these upscalers, the other reason why I bought these is because one of the questions in the comment that keeps coming up is, hey, Middle Siggy, I can't find the Yitrox Upscaler, which is my favorite one, that I mentioned in there. And the reason for this is, this upscaler seems to get purchased out at Amazon, because you guys probably purchased it by watching my video, and the manufacturer of it only has so many of them. So the answer to that is, if it's sold out, is basically just wait about a month, and they seem to manufacture some more and put them up in their store. And I'm going to put a link down in the description below to their store, so you can kind of check the status. And if you look right here, this is kind of what it looks like in the store when they're sold out of them. Right now, I think as the time I'm filming this video, they do have more in stock, but I can tell you from looking at the analytics from my site, everybody seems to be doing this video capture stuff basically around the same time, Christmas time, holidays, things like that, where everybody has some time off and you're free to do these kind of things, right? So the other goal of doing this was, I really wanted to try to find an alternate for you all on, giving you another option, so that when this one is sold out, you can buy another one, right? And I'm going to break these out into kind of three categories right now. So this one here is a Yitrox different model. I'm going to put that off to the side. I want to talk about that in a minute. And then I'm going to group all of these units together right here, because I bought all these, tested them all. They all met my standard for resolution and aspect ratio, and every one of these produced the same problem, which is it did a discoloration in the top band of the screen, and I'll try to simulate that right now. And it kind of made things like a pinkish color when they really weren't that color, right? Where these two units did not do that. So with that being said, the reason why these all do this, I found out after kind of taking a look under, let's say, the covers, is they all use the exact same chip. And so therefore, they all have the same problem, because it's the same hardware producing the same issue. So every one of these, I would not buy, right? So right out of the gate, we're not going to talk about them. We're not even going to put them on the list. We're just going to kind of put them off to the side and say, thanks for playing, but that's not really where you want to go. And I will tell you, these all come in different shapes and sizes and whatever. Every one of these is the upscaler that's basically under about $35, $40 in that US dollars, somewhere in that range. And so if you want a clue as to which ones might have this chip that kind of doesn't always do the greatest job, I mean, the picture looks good, it just kind of discolors it. That's going to be your one. And then this one obviously is your cheapest one. It was like $9 or something like that. And some of these other ones were in the $35 range, but nonetheless, would not go with any one of them, just because for a few extra dollars on one of these two units, you can solve the problem of that. All right, so that leaves me with these two guys. I obviously have your Yitrox. This is the one I recommended in the other video, and I still stand behind this unit and still believe it is one of the better units. But because this one runs out of supply every once in a while, I did find this one called the Sound Beast, and it does have a different chip than these guys' chip, and it does not produce that discoloration. So this one is on my recommendation list for another model that you would buy. When you're looking at these two, the Sound Beast was a little more expensive than the Yitrox, but the Yitrox had one other problem with it, which is, and it's a still problem to this day, they ship not the world's greatest power supply with it, and the one that came with it was not a UL certified power supply, and I think it probably was just a noisy, cheap conversion from like AC to DC, because this needs 5-volt DC. And if you buy the Yitrox, and I said this in the other video and I'm gonna say it here again, you're probably going to have to buy another power supply. Now, buy this one, test it. If it works in your world, super fantastic. Move on, don't think about it again. If you buy this and you get this kind of effect, right, where you're getting noise in the line, it's probably the power supply. So I'm gonna put a link to a UL certified power supply down below. You might have to find one if you're over in the UK or you're in Europe and the connections are a little different. You might have to find an equivalent or get an adapter, but basically get something that's UL certified or something that you know is a cleaner power supply. And I talk about that in more detail in the other video, so go and watch that one. But otherwise, these are going to be my two recommendations for the Yitrox or the Sound Beast. That's where I would go with one of those two. Now, I want to make one more comment. Some of you could be buying this version of the Yitrox converter because this one sells out and then the only one you could find is this version. And what I mean by that is if you look on this version of it, it has 3 RCA jacks, a yellow, a red, and a white. And the yellow is your video signal coming in. But on this version, you have 3 different connectors, a green, blue, and a red, and then a red and a white. The red and the white over here on the side are for audio and video, or I'm sorry, the red and the white over here is for audio, but these 3 signals are for your video. And the reason why there's 3 connectors is because technically speaking in this yellow signal, there are 3 different streams of analog data at different frequencies. And that is the drawing of the picture, the color of the picture, and like the brightness and contrast, the hue and saturation. So in the single one, it has to break out that signal, and the chip over here, it's allowed to separate the signal into 3 distinct signals, and it sends them down 3 different wires. If you have this version of the Yitrox Upscaler, it does not work with the VCRs that only have a single yellow connection. If your VCR has these other ports and does support breaking out the signal, then you can use this model. But if your VCR looks like this, where it only has a single yellow connector, don't buy this unit. It will not work for you, and that's not going to solve your problem. You're going to have to wait for this one to either come back or try the Sound Beast out. Right? So with that being said, there's the Upscalers. Now let's talk about the capture card, because what we're going to do is, again, we're going to send our analog signal into this device, and we're going to bring that digital signal out of the HDMI ports, and we're going to bring it into a capture card. So let's talk about that next. Okay, so now let's talk capture cards. So what we've got is our signal coming in from the VCR to the Upscaler, and then the Upscaler out using this HDMI cable. And if I turn this on, I would have HDMI and digital data flooding all over the room right now, and it'd be a big mess. So we're not gonna do it just yet. We'll wait till we have everything hooked up the right way. Now, with this HDMI cable, you might think that, hey, I can just plug this into this laptop because it has an HDMI port, and I would be good to go. But that's not really the case, because HDMI ports and video ports on your existing systems are generally output only. They don't really allow you to accept things. So think of it as like a VCR that can only play, that can't record, right? So in this case, we need to go and buy a capture card. Now, these are a couple of different ones by Elgato, and these are some of the more generic cheap ones. And I'll be honest, I spent my own money on this. I am not a sponsor by Elgato. I'm just a fan of their products. So, you know, it is what it is. They're not paying me to do any of this. So what I did, and I wanted to do for you, is I did in my other videos recommend using this Elgato card, or the older version of this, which was called the HD60. Now this is the 4K Pro version of it, because they no longer make the HD60 internally, but this is that new version. And what I did was I purchased some cheap versions, and I purchased some Elgato, because the cheapest Elgato is about $100 and this one's about $275, right? So quite a big difference. But if you look at the specs, there's a reason why this one does what it does and this one does not, right? Now, I got these cards here because some people in the comments said, hey, you can get away with buying like a cheap $10 card. And literally, this is a $10 capture card, and it will work. Yes, it will capture your video for you, and it'll solve the problem. But there's a catch to that. And the catch to that is, think about a $10 card opposed to a $100 card just from the amount of hardware you're getting price-wise, right? There's a reason why this is a $10 card and this is a $100 card, and that is because this one just doesn't have the capability to handle the higher resolution with the higher frame rate. Yes, it will do 1080p, but it will not capture it at the frame rate that the Upscaler is going to put out. The Upscaler is going to produce, let's say, a 1920 by 1080 pixel resolution video, but it's also going to do it at 60 frames a second. And that's going to make the video come out a lot smoother and cleaner when it kind of brings it into the signal here for the digital capture piece. But these devices only handle, these cheap ones, only 24 frames a second, not 60. And so what happens with that extra data is, well, you guessed it, it gets thrown away. So will they work? Yes, they will work, but they're not going to produce the quality that you're going to be putting out. So essentially you're buying this equipment and not quite doing the best job that you can do. And I'm trying to figure out how to tell you how to do this in the simplest way without spending thousands of dollars, right, to do this conversion, but instead doing something that's reasonable in the budget and allow you to do it on your home without having to box up all your tapes and send them out to an outside company, which you'll spend a lot of money for. And this is a repeatable process, so if your neighbor asks you to convert something, you'll be able to do it also, right? So out of the gate, I do not recommend buying the cheap $10, $20 cards, because you're going to get what you pay for quality-wise, and they're just not going to meet the specs that the Upscaler is going to be able to put the data into, right? So what you're going to want to do, I'm going to recommend, is go with one of these Elgato products. If you have a laptop or if you have a modern PC, you might want to go with one of these two versions, which are the cheaper versions. This is about 90 some dollars or $100. This one's like 140, and this one's 200 something. If you're just a casual person, I would go with one of these two over here, just because they're easier to use. You don't have to open up your PC. You can basically take your HDMI cable, plug it into one of these devices, plug this into your USB port, and you're off to the races. Now, if you like quality and you're a little bit more professional and you're like me, I do some streaming sometimes, and there's some other things that I do. I use this to kind of capture other types of videos. I would go with the extra money if you've got it in your budget. If you don't have it in your budget, the Cam 4K is probably the best card for the money. This is a different version. It's an upscale version. This also works with like PlayStations and things like that. If you wanted to stream, it's got an input and an output. The Cam Link 4K does not have an output capability. This would allow you to, let's say, do streaming on a gaming system or something like that. This card also allows you to do streaming. The Cam 4K is for what we're doing here, right? It's for capturing, VHS, and it's an input only type device. If you wanted to do some type of output, this is where I would spend a little extra money, or maybe even some more money, right? So this is a recommendation where I would go. I would buy one of the Elgato products, starting with the Cam 4K if you're just kind of the casual user, and if you're the more professional or you want to get more serious or you want to do more things technology. If you have a PC, I would go with the 4K Pro. If you have a laptop, you would do the HD60 X, this one right here, right? So I'm gonna break out, set up the setup for you. I'm gonna show you how to hook up each one of these individually. Watch the chapter pieces down below for the type of equipment that you went with, so you understand how that hookup works. And then we're gonna do something at the very end, so you might need to watch that and then jump to the end. And we're gonna set up OBS, which is the software that we're gonna use inside the PC or the laptop, or which is the software that we're going to use in the PC or the laptop, and it also works on a Macintosh. And we're going to go ahead and show you how to set up these devices and show them how you can capture things. So I'm going to set this up and let's talk it through. Okay, so the first setup I'm going to walk you through is VCR to Upscaler to capture card to a laptop or PC. So first thing you're going to do is you're going to take your VCR and you're going to find the output jacks on the back. Mine are down here on the back corner. So you're going to hook your yellow cable to the yellow jack, the white one to the white, and the red to the red. And that's going to set up your video and audio out for the VCR. You're then going to take that, and depending upon which upscaler you bought, I'm just going to use the Yitrox as my example, and you're going to take that and put that on the input side, where you're going to put the red on the red, the white on the white, and the yellow on the yellow. And that now feeds that analog signal into the Yitrox. Now, there is a power adapter. You need to plug in power. I'm not going to do that for this video, but I think you can figure that one out. And then what we're going to do is we're going to hook in the HDMI output on the other side of the upscaler. It's the same way for the sound beast. You have your inputs and you have your output side, right? And so now we've got the signal going in. It's going to get upscaled, and then we're going to take it, and in this example, we're going to use the Cam 4K. We're going to plug that into this input side on the Cam 4K, and we're then going to take the USB and plug it into your laptop or your PC. Now, I want to take special note to know, and this is what you need to figure out if you should buy this one or the HD60 X. Notice that this USB port has a blue end on it. And what that signifies is that's a USB 3.0 port, and that it can handle a certain bus speed or a certain amount of data to be transmitted through this. If you look on your laptop or your PC and it is a black connector, then that is a USB 2 or maybe even a USB 1 type connector. And that generally signifies that this may send more data than this can receive. Now, they don't always universally encode things with the right colors, so it's possible that even a black USB adapter could be a USB 3 or better port. But what you're going to do is you're going to just take this USB and you're just going to plug it into the laptop like that, and then we're going to get into OBS and set up the OBS software, and it's as simple as that. Now, if you don't have a USB 3.0 port, but you do have a USB-C port, this cam card does come with an adapter that allows you to take that USB 3, and you'll notice that on this one it's got a little blue adapter or end on it, and this is our USB-C, and I can plug that USB-C into this port here. And a USB-C port does handle a large amount of data, and so that will solve that problem. The negative too is if you try to put a USB 3 port into an older style port and it can't feed the data, you may get choppiness or just not quite the result that you're looking for. So keep that in mind. Look at the back of your PC and look to see if you have any colored ports. They could be blue, red, or yellow, right? But generally speaking, they're all going to be blue, and those are the ones you're looking for. If you have a blue USB port, this might be the easiest route for you to go. All right, so let's talk the HD60 X. Okay, so the HD60 X is a little different kind of configuration. The card's a little bit more expensive, so that the cam card is about $100. This one's about $140, but it does give you some additional features, such as it has a HDMI in and an HDMI out, and this would allow you to, let's say, stream your data or do pass-through of data. And there's some techniques for doing video editing and capturing and that kind of stuff that this could come in handy for the, let's say, extra $40, $50, right? So what you're going to do with this is you're going to take your same HDMI cable and you're going to plug it into the HDMI in port on the HD60 X, and then you're going to take the USB-C cable and plug it into the middle, and the cable comes with the adapter, and then you're going to plug this USB into your PC like that. Now, it comes with a USB-C to USB-A type connection. You can use a USB-C to USB-C, but it doesn't come with that cable. So you'll have to have a USB 3 type port here if you want to use this model. And you do not use the HDMI out port in this setup for what we're doing here, right? And this is another good model, and it's just as simple as that, right? So now let's talk about the internal card for the HD60 4K. Okay, so let's talk the Elgato 4K Pro, which replaces the HD60 internal card that I recommended in my other video. So you can find that other one, but it's very odd to find or a little harder to find. So this is the one that replaces it. Now, this card is about $275. This is the best and highest quality card and does give you the best specs because you are getting what you're paying for, right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna open up our PC. When we get into our PC, no, there should be no high voltage. You're not gonna electrocute yourself, not gonna hurt yourself, but you can damage your PC by getting into it. So make sure you don't have any rings on your fingers or jewelry or bracelets or where you can touch any of the metal contacts. And then obviously unplug the PC right from the back. Pull the power cord out of the back and give it about 30 seconds for any of the capacitors to just discharge, and then it's safe for you to kind of get in here and touch and move around things, right? So what you're going to look for is this card is going to plug into one of these black bus connections, and you can see how big the connectors are. Yes, this little connector will plug into the longer ones. No, it will not plug into the short ones. So you need at least something that can get all of these pins plugged into something. In my case, I have this little swing piece here, and I'm going to take this card and I'm going to just plug it into this slot right here, just like that. And then I can close that. That holds the card in there, and now my card is in the machine. So if I turn this around, it's going to have an input jack and an output jack, just like on the HD60 X, that external card, and all you're going to use is the input. So you're going to just take this video feed that's coming from the Upscaler, you're going to plug it into the input port here, just like that, and then you're going to set up the OBS Studio to go ahead and read that. And so we're going to show you that OBS step next. This is all you have to do to plug this in. It should just detect it and work. Obviously, you got to plug the power back in and reboot your PC, but you're good to go, right? So let's talk through on OBS and show you how to set up all of this once it's in the software for a first-time download. Okay, so now I'm on my PC and I want to share with you just how you install OBS and then how you take OBS and set it up to work with the capture cards that we just kind of talked through earlier in the video, right? So if you open up your browser and you just type in OBS Studio, you'll find this OBS Studio link, and I'll make sure that I put this down in the description down below just so there's no confusion, but we're going to go ahead and click on this Download OBS Studio, and you're going to see that OBS Studio is supported by Windows, Macintosh, and Linux systems, right? Now, I'm going to download the Windows version, and this is free open source software. There's no fees, there's no, nothing you have to pay for, nothing you have to buy, and it does work with everything that I've recommended here in the video today. So we're going to go ahead and click the download installer, and depending upon how your browser works, you may have to save the file and open it later. You can see I've already downloaded this once before, but I'm going to go ahead and just tell my browser here that I want to open up this thing, and it's going to go ahead and download it and then run the software. So once you hit the software and run it on your Windows machine or on your Macintosh, you open up through the system panel, you're going to go ahead and click next and just kind of continue through these options and just accept whatever the defaults are for running OBS. And once it's done installing, it's going to give you the option. That way you can go ahead and you can run OBS, and we're going to do that, and we're going to walk you through how to set it up. So we're going to go ahead and launch the OBS Studio here by just hitting finish. And now we're into OBS. And the very first time OBS runs, it wants to understand how you're going to use it. So it's going to ask you a little bit of questions from its little wizard. And we're going to choose the second option here, that we're going to optimize for recording and not streaming. And we're going to click next. We're going to leave these settings the way they are. Should be 1920 by 1080. Hopefully that's what your settings are. You could have a higher resolution screen, so it may be more, but I'm going to leave mine to 1920 by 1080. And I'm going to do the either 60 or 30, but before 60 when possible. And then I'm going to go next, and then I'm going to leave these the way it is because it's just a summary. I'm going to hit apply settings. So now that we have OBS Studio running, we're going to go ahead and set it up to see the capture card. Okay, so the first thing that you want to do is, I obviously have my Yitrox Upscaler being fed information from the VCR, and then I have it going into that 4K Cam Elgato device. I'm using that one in this example here. And right now it doesn't display anything because there's no capture devices being defined. So the first thing we have to do is come down here to sources, and we have to define our first capture device. And so we're just going to hit plus here, and we're going to say video capture device, and we're going to leave the default here the way it's named and hit OK. Now, even though it says video capture device, it will do video and audio because the capture card is sending both signals through. And you'll see here that we've got the Cam 4K. And if I were to play something on my VCR, we would actually start seeing a video signal here. And so there you can kind of see I'm rewinding my VCR, and I'm actually getting the signal coming through the Upscaler into the capture card and now into my PC. So I'm going to rewind this tape here. All right, and you can already see that I'm already getting the VCR signal. Now, you don't need to make any changes to this screen right here. Just go ahead and hit OK, because you're seeing the capture card and we're good to go. So what's going to happen is my video is actually playing and you can see it right there. And this video is coming in right now as 1920 by 1080 because that's what the Yitrox is set to. And also, it's a computer, so it's expecting you to send it a modern signal, not a VHS signal. But remember that VHS is a 4:3 aspect ratio, so this is being stretched, and it means it kind of stretches and it squishes things a little bit. So things are not truly accurate to the way they are. Now, you can correct this by doing a few things. One, you can either go to the Yitrox and change its signal input or output so that way it's sending you a 4:3 picture. Or what you could do is you can come in and you can adjust this frame so that it is a 4:3 dimensions. Now, to do that, if I grab on the corner or if I grab here on the side, you'll notice that this box is always trying to maintain its 16:9 aspect ratio. And we don't really want it to do that. Now, I can drag just in from the side because I really just want to squish my sides together, right? So that I'm squishing the picture. But to do that, I have to hold down on the Shift key when I'm over one of these dots. And now I can drag in just one corner and you'll notice that it is not going to resize the whole picture, right? And then I'm going to bring this side over. And I've basically figured out, based upon the dimensions of a 1920 by 1080 screen, that if you come in 241 to 241, and I can't get this one to go to 241, but if you do a 241 on both sides, that this is then becoming your 4:3 aspect ratio and is a true representation of what the original picture was supposed to look like, and it's no longer going to stretch it. Now, this is cheating a little bit because it's still sending a 1920 by 1080 16:9 image. We're just squishing it back to its normal shape, right? But I prefer doing it in this method. I know you guys are going to blow up the comments on this one, but this works. You can see the picture looks just fine. And then, yes, if you get down to the technical detail, you're really using the upscaler to stretch the image and then to squish it back. I get that. But this is the easy way so you can solve the problem. You can play with the resolution of the upscaler and change it to one of the 4:3 aspect ratios, and that will solve the problem also. But this is a way to kind of stop it from doing it. Now, after you've adjusted that and you've got it set the way you want it, come down here and click this lock button. That will make it so that you cannot go and change that box anymore, and you won't accidentally drag it around. And this way, if you close OBS and you go back into it, you'll see that it's going to remember all of those settings just the way you had it. So that way you can record your videos and come back to this later. Now, one other thing you need to do too is, if you notice down on my audio mixer, I have multiple audio sources, one being my microphone that's hooked to this PC. You don't want my voice or your voice or the room noise to get into your video that you're recording. So you need to mute any of the other audio sources that show up here other than that video capture device that we set up. And we called it video capture device, so that's the one we know. You could have called it Cam 4K if you renamed it, but if you follow what I told you to do, this is the one that we want to make sure to do it. And you'll see that it's bringing in the audio and we're getting the video. Now, when we go to record our video here, we could just hit start recording, but we want to come down here to settings and we want to make a few changes so that we get the highest quality video file when we go to save these. So let's click on settings and we're going to change a couple of things in here. And we're going to go to output, and I want you to come in and leave it at simple. This should how we set it up. And depending upon the OBS software and where it is, they do change some of these settings, so this could look a little different. But basically, we want to go with like an 8,000 bit rate. We want to maximize our audio bit rate, right? This is how many times it samples it per second. And we want to set this, if we have an option of hardware or software, to the hardware version. And then we're going to come down here and we're going to change the recording path to the location. I want mine to be under my VHD on VHS videos. And then I'm going to leave these settings the way that they are. Just be aware, like the recording format, you can change this to a true MP4 file. I like mine as an MKV. And I also come down here, and you may have yours set on software. I always set mine to hardware, and I prefer the HEVC, which is a better encoding product than HECV or HEVC, which is a better encoder than the H264. So if you do the HEVC and you have that option, pick that. Otherwise, use the H264 and always choose hardware over software so that it'll offload to, let's say, your GPU and not do it via software. Other than that, those are the only settings I would suggest you change. Hit apply, hit OK, and just start recording. Once you're recording, whatever you play on your VCR or bring in from anything, it could be an old game system or whatever it is, whatever you bring into here, it's going to record, and you'll see down here we have a small timer that's ticking up showing us that we've recorded now 13 seconds worth of video and that it's coming in at 60 frames a second, and we're using a fraction of our CPU because I've offloaded all of the encoding to the hardware. Once you're done, you can go ahead and click stop recording. You'll see that it has stopped down here, and we can then open that folder and watch the video. And so what you see here is that it has created a file name with today's date, 1/25/2025, at this time, which is 11:05 a.m. in the morning and 45 seconds, right? And so if we go ahead and just double click this and run it, we'll see our video.
If you've got the credit card, he says the outdoor trip for you.
And that's all there is to it. Now there is one thing that I do want to share with you, and if you look on your Yitrox controller, and it's got like a switch button or a DPI or maybe a switch and a zoom button on the front, depending upon the resolution that your video is coming in, or if it's not the quality or the DPI that you want to do it on, and you go and you push this button, right? The problem is sometimes the Cam 4K card doesn't exactly register the video frequency change or the resolution change. So I'm gonna push that button right now and show you what I mean. So I just pushed it, and you'll see here where the Elgato is now saying, hey, I can't recognize what's going on. So to solve this problem, what I found to do is you can unplug your card and plug it back in. That's one way for it to fix. But if you come here and you just right click on your video capture device and go to properties, you'll see it says the Cam Link 4K. If you just go off of that device and go back onto that device, it will tell the device to reinitialize and reread the settings. And now we're gonna get our video back. So the Yitrox supports a lot of different resolutions, and you have to kind of cycle through them to get back to the one that you want. And so what I do is I'm going to go ahead and just push this DPI button, right? And it's going to blip out, and then I'm going to go and say, I'm going to go off, and then I'm going to go back on. And then you can see here, it's 720 by 576. That's not the resolution I'm looking for. I want the 1920 by 1080. So I'm going to push the button again. I'm going to go off and go back on, and that's an 800 by 600. Okay, so basically that's how you do it. If you run into that issue, you do have to play with it a little bit. It's kind of finicky, especially that Cam 4K card. So hopefully you found that video very helpful, and hopefully I walked through and gave you some more options here in 2025 to let you know that what I was telling you a few years ago still holds true, and it's a very good method. This is still my preferred method for capturing, using the Upscalers that are better quality. So don't buy an Upscaler that's probably less than, say, $40, just because I know the chips that are in these, the price point on them puts that in that upper $40. So the Yitrox or this Sound Beast are very good Upscalers for the low-end market. No, they're not commercial grade, but you're not going to break your bank by going with this. And then if you've got a laptop or Windows PC, or even a Macintosh, these Elgato devices do support Macintosh and Windows. So you can look at these both here, or if you have an internal PC only, you can go with the internal card. This is the best quality capture card that I would recommend out there. It's very high end. If you can support it or afford it, this is where I would go personally. But if you're on a budget, I would do the Cam Link, and I would do one of these two Upscalers. They are pretty much in the same market. Don't forget, you might need the power supply with the Yitrox if you get the weird fuzzing as I described earlier. With that, thank you as always for watching. I really hope that this video helps you guys. If you would like some more technical information about the Upscalers, their chips, or even the capture cards, put some comments down below. Let me know that that's something you want to see. If you want to know about something else, please let me know. I've got some other videos I'm going to be doing about like digitizing digitizing slides and film and photos and things like that. Other projects that I've done in the past that I think would be useful to you, because I've gotten those questions also. But do me a favor, leave some comments down below. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. It really does help the channel. And with that, as always, thank you for watching. I am just absolutely filled with gratitude by the fact that you guys watch these videos and they are helpful and useful to you. And I hope you find good memories on your tapes. And with that, have a wonderful and beautiful day.